Hello there folks, and how is it going? And welcome back to another video. It's me! I'm back! And it's been a while, I know, and apologies for that, but here we are celebrating my glorious return at an absolutely wonderful spot that's not too far from where I live. It's just outside of Lagos, a place called Ponta Piedad, and it's a very popular place for landscape photography, and for good reason. It's really absolutely incredible. And we're here just before the sun rises. As you can see, it's getting nice and bright behind me here. Loads of compositional opportunities for us to take advantage of. So let's have a scout around and see what we can see. You know, one of the most amazing things about this particular location is you just got all these absolutely wonderful sea stacks that just come up out of the water like spears of Poseidon, and it really gives you a great opportunity to be able to practice your long exposure techniques, to work on your compositional techniques. The idea, at least for me with this particular frame, is to try and find a nice separation between each of the big rocks that are coming up out of the water, just to give each of them a bit of room to breathe and to be able to kind of, like I say, play with that ebb and flow of the tide. It's on its way out now, and you know, there's a spot down here that I may need to get down to. We'll see if I'm brave enough to do that, which might prove itself to be quite nice. But at the minute, I'm actually just looking over here at this very nice archway, and I've got a polarizer on to help cut through some reflection, because there's some really beautiful rocks underneath the surface of the water there, and I'm really hoping that the polarizer will help cut through the glare so we can see them to add a nice bit of foreground interest. There's a staircase of some sort here. This used to be an old jetty, you know, and so I may go down to the end of them stairs to put the camera nice and low to the water. So let's there's loads to do here. It's a wonderful location. It's a small location and it's really great, but it has absolutely loads of potential and loads to offer. So just going to wait for the light to come up a little bit higher for the kind of main shot that I'm looking for. So for now, all we're doing is just playing and you know, testing and trying different exposures, and yeah, fun times. Let's get at it.
So this is the first image that I captured on this absolutely wonderful morning. There was nothing majorly compelling about this photograph. I just really like the archway and the way that the light is catching on the side of the rocks ever so slightly and slowing down the shutter speed, softening that water, really adds an ethereal feel to the image. Again, like I said, it's not a banger by any means, but it seems to suit the aesthetic of the entire shoot. Nonetheless, I'm very happy with how it turned out, and this being the first image of the shoot bodes well for the rest of the morning. Before I get into my little ramble about this particular image, forgive me for not recording any piece to camera while I was on location. You know, being new to YouTube and talking to the camera and all of that kind of fun stuff, as soon as somebody else turned up, I was quite apprehensive to do any talking to the camera, so forgive the lack of introduction to this image. So this is the main image that I really came here to capture. This scene that we're looking at right now, as I mentioned, it's a very classic Algarvian scene, and one that you'll probably recognize, if not this exact location, but something very similar. One of the things that I tried to achieve here when taking this photograph was to get a sense of balance. And by using the railing and the old staircase in the foreground, ultimately helps to balance the frame with the sea stacks and the water beyond.
With the main shot in the bag from down below, I've actually come up the set of stairs. There's a huge winding staircase that takes you down to this location, and what it offers you is like tiers. So as you ascend back up, you can stop, set up, and take different perspectives of this same location, which is a really, really fantastic thing. So you can see there's another few people down below here. So it is a busy place for people to come and enjoy the sunrise because it's so wonderful. It's very classic Algarve, this kind of scene. Right now, I'm actually got a 10-stop ND filter on and the soft grad on, just playing around with some long exposures and using the soft grad to help mitigate the highlights in the sky. So fun times ahead, and let's fire on.
Being slightly higher enabled us to eliminate the jetty entirely from the frame, which I don't know if I like. I mean, I do like this photograph that we're looking at now. It's okay. I wouldn't print it by any means, or I wouldn't try and sell it or anything, but you know, as far as playing around with shutter speed and composition, it's always good just to have a wander about the place and see what catches your eye. And this particular vantage point caught mine more so just for the fact that it emphasized that negative space on the right hand side of the frame. But other than that, I wouldn't go too bananas over it. One thing I do like about the image though is the fact that the polarizer helped to eliminate the glare on the surface of the water, which then ultimately allows us as the viewer to see the exposed rocks that's below the surface. Maybe something I might play with next time I visit this location.
So I've actually come up just another little bit up to the next tier, if you will. And what it's really offering us is a much wider angle of this scene. And as you can see here, the light is really starting to catch on the side of these rock faces here as the sun has come up from the bank of cloud that was out on the horizon. So it's really absolutely wonderful. I'm just playing around with some different exposure times. I've got the soft grad in to help and try and manage the highlights a bit in the sky. You know, one of the things that you need to really be aware of when you're shooting into a sunrise like this is the dynamic range of the image is just so huge. So shooting bracketed is always the preferred method, and then just, you know, blending these exposures together to create the final image that you're after. Let's fire away and let's keep going.
So this picture I am super happy with. Really, really like the way that this turned out. The light that's catching on the right hand side rock face really helps to add a fantastic balance to the scene. I am super thrilled with the way that the light came through the rocks and shone on this cliff edge. It was exactly what I was hoping would happen when setting out to capture these images of this location. And one extra thing that I really love about this image is the way that the golden light just catches as the wave in the midground just ever so slightly rolls across the frame. It's an absolutely wonderful leading line that takes you from the right hand side rock face through the photograph and ultimately to that main sea stack in the background. And the golden light, being lovely and soft, just casts this wonderful ethereal feel to it. And needless to say, I'll put my hands up, there is a bit of an Orton effect going on here, but sure, look, who doesn't love a bit of Orton at the end of the day? Super duper happy with the way this image turned out, and one that I think is probably my favorite one from this shoot, but I'll let you guys decide down in the comments below.
When we arrived at this location, there were some people we noticed standing all the way up at the top of the cliffs with cameras. And we kind of thought to ourselves, oh, I wonder what the view is they're looking at. Now, me being me, I went down the steps to find what I was ultimately came here to photograph, which you would have seen already. And now having ascended back up the colossal amount of steps that are in this area. It's a good cardio workout if you're ever looking for one here. I'm now looking down at the scene that those people were standing at, and it's really, really fantastic. And I think I may even prefer it to the water level shot. It gives a much grander overview of the entire scene. And what I've actually discovered is in the foreground, you'll probably be able to see it a bit better in the final picture. I don't know if you can see it here behind me. Got these wonderful plants. I'm not sure what they are. They've got these pop of red color in them. It's just really adding a nice foreground to this entire scene. I'm going to play around. I might put the 10 stop in and play around with some longer exposures just to smooth out the water down there. But there's some birds flying around. There's some people on the sup boards that I might try and include in the frame. And it's a really, really wonderful composition. Super glad that we noticed these people standing up here. And yeah, let's get to shooting.
It was such a nice surprise to find this composition, and the flowers that are in the foreground really add to the balance of this image. I'm really, really happy with how this one turned out. It is cropped at a 4:5. I found that the original aspect ratio, there was just a bit of dead space in the main foreground, so I just tightened it up a bit just to help balance the composition. But it's a really, really nice frame, and one that I think I would absolutely go back to just to capture in a bit more softer golden light. One thing that I really do enjoy about this image is that the foreground is really nicely lit and catching the last of that soft light, whereas then the mid and the background down at the bottom still somewhat in shadow. So it adds this really nice balance and contrast of lights and shadows, which I really, really like. Now, needless to say, we had intended to visit the archway in Lagos, but you know, the time ran away on us. It proved to be a bit further than we anticipated.
So I think we're pretty much going to call it a day, or at least a morning here, folks. As you can see behind the Roman archway that I just mentioned a moment ago is way in Lagos. So it's a bit too far to go and photograph in nice light. So we'll leave that for another day. But as you can see behind us here, again, very Algarvian scenes. And those beaches that are out there with those standing stones that you see are very, very popular as well for folks to go and photograph. So let's make that our next adventure. You know, one of the things that I'm trying to achieve now is to get up for more sunrise locations. While the west coast of the Algarve is really fantastic for sunsets, where the majority of these last videos have been from, the south coast here really lends itself well to sunrises and has some absolutely wonderful photo locations that I aim to try and explore over the next coming months. So for now, I've got my AeroPress, I've got some coffee that I personally roasted. Me and Orla are both now going to sit, enjoy the last of the sunrise and have a good coffee. So thanks for watching, and apologies again for my absence. It's just been an absolutely manic time this last few weeks with work. Who knew trying to manage a full-time job and start making videos for YouTube would be so difficult? But needless to say, we shall continue on. And for now, let's sign off and we'll see you on the next one. Take it easy, everyone.